Welcome to the Writer Reads Short Stories, A Matter of Justice, Part 5. If she was inside the barrier, Schaeffer thought, Winsome wasn't going to be terribly happy. They stepped clear of the bushes to find a thick-trunked oak tree. The elves, the elves spread quickly out to search around the base of the tree before ascending into its branches. After a couple of minutes, they reappeared, shaking their heads at Sorella as they stepped down onto the ground. Sorella frowned and then stepped up to the tree trunk and knocked. Schaeffer listened to the staccato pattern of beats and stared at the ground. When nothing happened straight away, she glanced up at the overhanging branches and then out at the surrounding bushes. They were very pretty with their highlights of yellow and white. She noticed Sorella raise a hand a second time and then glance up at the tree. "What's that?" she asked, as the leaves nearest began to droop. "Oh, no." Sorella's voice was just above a whisper. "She wouldn't." Schaeffer glanced at the elf's face, hearing shocked murmuring rising from the elves around her. "She couldn't," Sorella said, her voice rising almost to the edge of tears. "What?" Schaeffer asked, looking up at the tree and seeing its leaves curl to brown and shatter. Understanding dawned as she realized the tree was dying. "What can we do?" she asked. "What?" she repeated, seizing Sorella by the shoulder and shaking her as Sorella's jaw dropped and a sob escaped her. "What can we do?" At first the elf didn't answer, and Schaeffer shook her again. Sorella reached up and covered Schaeffer's hand with her own. "Nothing," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's nothing we can do. She's killed the dryad." Schaeffer heard the words, but her mind rejected them. "She's what?" Schaeffer asked. "What did you say?" Her knees felt weak and a wave of dizziness passed over her, but she still heard Sorella's reply. "She killed the dryad." "Are you sure? Can we get in there? Save her?" By her she didn't mean Winsome, and Sorella understood. The elf shook her head. "Only the dryad can let you into her tree. If she could have let me in, she would have. She wouldn't have kept you out to protect you." Sorella frowned and shook her head. "No, I have authority here. She—" Her voice tapered off. "Troll's blood and breakfast!" Frantically she raised her hand and knocked again. This time she raised her voice in Elvish, commanding the tree. When it didn't respond, Sorella repeated the action and the command. She repeated it a third time when there was still no response, and then the leaves began to fall. Sorella called out, banging on the trunk with both hands, her voice commanding and pleading by turns. Her voice faded into sobs as the leaves fell around her, and the tree remained both solid and silent. Schaeffer did not need the arrival of several dryads to tell her that there was nothing to be done. Both the tree and its spirit were gone. And Winsome? "Winsome?" she asked, and she wasn't calling the woman in any hope of finding her. She was asking Sorella what might have happened to her. "She is in the tree." Sorella's voice sounded hollow, almost emotionless in its grief. "You mean she's trapped in there?" The she-elf nodded. "Without the dryad to give it life, the space within the tree will close, filling in with wood, dead, dead wood, and anything within will be crushed, forever entombed." "Killed?" Schaeffer barely dared to hope. After all that Winsome had done, nothing would be more fitting. But Sorella scrambled suddenly away from the trunk against which she had been resting. "No," she said. "It's much worse than that. She was a murderer. She killed the tree's spirit, its soul. Whatever good it had within it is gone." "But the tree's dead," Schaeffer said, looking at Sorella apprehensively. "Gone, right?" The she-elf shook her head, gesturing frantically to her people as she backpedaled away. "No, not gone. All that is good is gone. Now it is only dead and not dead. The evil deed done within its heart spreads. Look!" She gestured upward, and Schaeffer followed the direction of her hand. The tree's bark was blackening, bruising from within. Lumps appeared along its trunk and branches, and they moved, shuddering as though touched by the wind, despite the fact that the air around them was perfectly still. One by one, the dryads turned and walked away, but the elves ran, scattering like leaves before the wind. Schaeffer looked up at the tree and stepped back. She stopped when she felt the prickle of branches at her back. She stopped and did the only thing she could think of to do. She drew her sidearm. As one root ripped free of the earth and the tree lurched sideways, followed by a second, Schaeffer was glad she decided on a PSN 826. It was a 45 in caliber, but designed to fire loads of cold iron or silver. PSN. Pistol. Supernatural. Schaeffer had loaded it with alternating rounds because she never knew exactly what she'd need it for. She pulled the trigger, compensating for a kick as she emptied the magazine into the tree trunk. It was still trying to pull free of the ground when she reloaded and fired again. She was reaching for a third mag when another gun sounded from the clearing's edge. The tree shuddered, and cracks ran up and down its trunk before it shattered. The force of its death pushed Schaeffer into the bushes, wedging her deep within a forest of acacia and wattle branches fringed by thorns. Well, troll's blood and breakfast, she swore, trying to pull herself free and feeling herself slip deeper into the brush. From somewhere nearby she heard someone else cursing a blue streak. Mitch, and she was supposed to have kept him away from the dryads. Now they were in the middle of a grove with one dead tree caused by someone they'd let escape. There was going to be hell to pay for this. She wondered what the penalty would be. She also wondered just how long it would take the elves to get her out of the thorns. Before nightfall, she hoped. They had a rescue mission to supervise, a plane crash to investigate, reparations to negotiate, and then there were the trolls. Yes, before nightfall would be very much for the best.